The Blast from Our Past Network.
Hey everybody, Corey here.
And it's me, Zach.
We wanted to tell you about our new show called The Coscarelli Factor.
You can find it on our Patreon at patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. The Coscarelli Factor covers every single film that Don Coscarelli has directed. And some other little bonus features in there too, like maybe the music videos he directed as well.
That's right. You can find all the episodes under the Auteur de Force tier on our Patreon page. Like Zach said, that's patreon.com/podcastingafterdark. And if you sign up today, you will get access to the complete Carpenter Factor series, where Zach and I went through every single movie that John Carpenter directed, from Dark Star all the way to, well, all the way till the end. So sign up today to our Patreon page and you can unlock all kinds of other things as well, like ad-free episodes and our monthly wrap-up After Dark show.
Patreon helps keep the lights on in the podcasting After Dark world. It gets pretty dark out there at night, and all your support keeps us from getting too scared.
And thank you to everyone who's signed up to our Patreon page. We really appreciate it. And as always,
we'll catch you on the dark side. Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura, a deep dive into underrated and unknown television shows from our youth. Cartoons, sitcoms, cop shows, and much more. Sit back and enjoy some nostalgic fun with TV Obscura.
what's up, everybody? Welcome to this month's episode of Podcasting After Dark presents TV Obscura. I'm one third of the TV Obscura team, Corey, a.k.a. Sleazy C. Joined with me as always, and now Zach's looking at the camera.
Sorry, I was looking at my Rick Springfield poster.
To not make me laugh. All right, we're done. Guys and gals, I'm Corey, Diallo, Zach. This is like our second time trying to record the intro. It's all good. You guys know us.
Ann Jillian's ghost was here. Yeah. Ann Jillian's ghost was here.
Yeah, right. And she's still alive.
Yeah,
that's the irony.
Alive.
Zach.
Oh, crap.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. So, guys and gals, this is not an Ann Jillian tribute episode because she's still alive, but we are covering 3 Ann Jillian, not shows because she's an ensemble of one of them, but we are going to be talking about It's a Living, Jennifer Used to Sleep Here, and is it just called The Ann Jillian Show? Or is
Correct.
Yeah, it's just, okay. Real quick, though, going into all of this, Corey here, we kind of have a collective here with TV Obscura. We kind of we all throw out ideas and stuff like that. And, it's very much a collective group show. And this is one of the times where I literally knew nothing about this person. I know nothing about Ann Jillian. I knew nothing about any of these shows. Never even heard of them, any of them. So can I ask you guys, Zach, who is Ann Jillian?
Wait, Zach, before you start, I have to say, normally we discuss what we were gonna cover. Sometimes we throw stuff back and forth. But this time it was just we're doing Ann Jillian, and I go, okay. I have no idea why we're doing Ann Jillian.
Yeah, I don't know how it came up,
but I said okay because I was like, Ann Jillian, and that's amazing. So
this is what I recall, everybody. So I recall us at some point wanting to talk about It's a Living, wanting to cover that show because Diallo loves it. I love it. Corey's never heard of it. But Diallo and I both were like, yeah, it's a great show. We got to figure out how to cover it. And then I was like, something on social media popped up, another Ann Jillian show. It was, Jennifer Slept Here or whatever that show is called. And I was like, wait, she's in another sitcom around the exact same time? And then I looked up her IMDb and I was like, wait, she was in 3 sitcoms within the span of a few years? That's pretty crazy. And then I started looking at her overall resume, and she's a former child actress and then singer. She started out in the 60s, and she's got a pretty heavy she's got a heavy rep, as they say in the Warriors. Like, she's been around. She's done a shit ton of stuff. And, you know, sincerely, like, her peak was really in the 80s, but when I say her peak was in the 80s, she really peaked. I mean, she was everywhere in the 80s. Music, Broadway, movies, TV. Like, she was a total package back in the day. And no one talks about her now. Like, no one talks about. And so maybe in my mind, I was like, we should just do an Ann Jillian episode, because I think she's worth remembering. You know, one of the things we do on TV Obscura, everybody, is like we celebrate things that people have forgotten. I guarantee you go out on the street today, you ask 20 people, show them a picture of Ann Jillian, they won't know who she is.
Yeah.
They'll be like,
I'm an example of that.
Yeah, but I don't mean that to disparage her in any way. we live in a short attention. If people thought we lived in a short attention span mode back in the early 2000s, we are way beyond that now. You know, if you're not on TikTok or, you know, whatever, then no one knows who you are. So Ann Jillian, God bless her, 75 years old. I don't know what she's doing today, but, you know, damn, in the 80s and 90s, she was everywhere.
Yeah, and, you know, don't take anything, you know, negative from what I just said. Like, I really enjoyed covering all of these shows and, like, learning about her and everything. And, yeah, she's so prolific, especially in the 80s, and somehow I kind of missed her. Now, I think, Zach, the show that I'm covering, I think it was on NBC, so that might, like, explain that. But yeah, it's cool, and I'm totally on board. I am glad we are doing this Ann Jillian three-way here, and I gotta say,
wow,
I am a fan right now. Woohoo!
We have to rename this TV Obscura After Dark, I believe.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
A little,
I do think we have
a message at the beginning.
Yeah, for real.
Oh, guys and gals, Podcasting After Dark has always been blue. But I think we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So, Diallo, do you want to kick us off with It's a Living?
No.
Okay. And that's it, guys and gals. Good night.
And we're done.
Catch you on the obscure side.
Ann Jillian.
Yes, of course, I would love to talk about It's a Living. So It's a Living. And this is something I learned today. Like, I was texting you guys, my mind was completely blown because I was like, I wouldn't say I was obsessed with the show, but I was a big fan of it when it was on. But I did not realize that it was on in two different time zones, eras. So it originally was on ABC. It debuted October 30th, 1980, and ran for 2 seasons. Both were about 13 episodes until June 11th, 1982. I was completely shocked by this because I watched it in syndication, but they were like, it was like first run syndication, so they were brand new episodes from September 28th, 1985 to April 8th, 1989. So I just completely had no idea that this was a show that was on in the earliest of 80s. And so it had premiered on ABC, but it got canceled due to low ratings. And one thing that I learned also was a little bit, and I think I mentioned this maybe, I think I said this at Pasadena Comic-Con. It may have been on the show, but Charles in Charge, actually, was a show that I believe was on a network originally, but then jumped over to syndication.
Yes.
Mama's Family. I don't know if you remember that. I think that was
CBS,
another one.
right?
Yeah, but I think that jumped over to syndication like first run. So it was in that era when some shows were like getting a second life, and I think It's a Living was one of the first shows to do that.
Yeah.
So it was created by Stu Silver, Dick Clare, Jenna McMahon. The premise and setting was that it was in a high-rise in Los Angeles. The restaurant was called Above the Top. It was a group of waitresses, a manager, a really cheesy piano player, and they had kitchen staff, like chefs that were kind of featured on the show. And it was like a cross between them. They were all waitresses doing stories about them waitressing, and then they all had like a private life thing going on, and then there's also like something going on with the chef, usually in an episode, with the piano guy just kind of like in the back being obnoxious
and sleazy.
Yeah, and oh my gosh,
So good though.
Yeah, no, very Larry Dallas, right? Very that same vibe.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, you know, to their credit, because he was he outright was like, you know, let me take you home and play piano on your chest or something. Like he was saying like stuff that was like way out there, but he was being cast as the creepy guy, and they always had like a comeback to put him in his place. So it wasn't necessarily, you know, your typical sleaze.
He's no sleazy C.
Yeah.
I think his name is Paul Kreppel. Kreppel played.
Yeah. So the show, and one of the things about the show, and I looked this up, it was the exterior shot was of the Westin Bonaventure Hotel.
Thank you. The whole time I was wondering what that was.
Yeah. Because I was looking at it and I was like, wait, is that in Century City? Where's that? You know, now that I live here for so long, I was like, oh yeah, I need to look up where this is. So yeah, it was like a workplace sitcom. The theme music, you know, because that's my thing. It was composed by George Allison Tipton, who did Soap and Golden Girls.
Oh, wow.
That's obvious.
Yeah. With lyrics by Leslie Bricusse, I think they said.
Bricusse.
Yeah, and did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which
exactly, and the God, I'm having a brain fart, but it was with Jill Schoelen. It was the toy
Babes in Toyland.
In Toyland.
Yes,
Babes in Toyland. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, and
she likes to call it Babes in Toyland.
Ann Jillian was in Babes in Toyland.
I was gonna say, yeah, Ann Jillian was in that too.
Yeah. Babes in Toyland.
Babes in Toyland.
Yeah. So, and Ann Jillian's character was named Cassie. She was kind of like the, you know, really for her time, she was like the more sexually attuned character, which for that era just meant that she just went on dates a lot.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't anything crazy, but by, you know, today's standards, it's like normal. But back then, she was like the risque one.
And she was also the kind of the sassy one too.
Yeah, very sassy, and I think it increased over time. But yeah, so she was on, you know, a lot of TV shows. She there's some of these I was like totally forgot about. She was on a show called Hazel. I don't know if you.
Oh, I remember that show.
Yeah,
wasn't she like a house cleaner? Yeah.
Yeah. And then I just noted this because I just saw Jerry Mathers at Pasadena Comic-Con last week sitting at his table. She was on an episode of Leave It to Beaver. She's on Babes in Toyland. She actually did a lot of voice work in, I think, between when she was a child actor to when she was an adult actor. So she was like on Captain Caveman and the Teen Angels. C-Lab 2020, Scooby-Doo movies. So she actually, when she started It's a Living in 1980, the show got canceled. And then she went on to do some other show that we'll talk about a little bit later. And then came back to do It's a Living when it came back in syndication. And this is one of the things I always remember about her, because I know she was kind of blowing up in the mid-'80s when she got diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was like a pretty big deal. And it was like one of the first times I think people really like talked about that. And so she made it like a thing. And
was that in her TV movie as well?
Yeah, that's what the TV movie was about. So yeah, so she actually
was there a TV movie like based on her life type of thing?
Yeah, it was called The Ann Jillian Story.
Oh, okay.
And it was starring Ann Jillian.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she actually won a Golden Globe. So yeah, and it just like it had, you know, public awareness about breast cancer. So it was, you know, pretty for its time, you know, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
But that breast cancer diagnosis, it was like a big deal too, because she stayed on the show, like she had, you know, announced it, but then stayed on the show for the rest of the season and then left. And then when she left the show, she was replaced by Cheryl Lee Ralph, who anybody that watches Abbott Elementary knows who she is.
Oh.
If you ever watched Sister Act 2, Moesha, all these she was on the original Dreamgirls and Broadway. So this is all black stuff, so you guys probably don't know about it.
Yeah.
I know black stuff.
She voiced Amanda Waller in Young Justice. So Corey, you probably know about that.
I don't know about that.
Static Shock. Anyway,
I don't know nerd stuff. Oh, I know Static Shock.
Yeah,
that's black stuff too, right?
That's black stuff. Oh man. So it also starred Barry Youngfellow, who she was kind of like the house mother of all the waitresses.
She was like the Miss Garrett.
Yeah. No. Well, no. That I think you're thinking about Marion Mercer.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
yes.
Who was who played Nancy? She was like the maitre d'. Who
sorry.
Looking at all this stuff, she is a Tony. I think she was a Tony Award winner. Yeah, she's a Tony Award winning actress, which is to me that's crazy. She was on the Dean Martin show. She was on ABC After School Special. After School Special. She was on Are You My Mother?
Are you my? Oh, that's a Dr. Seuss book? Are You My Mother?
The one where the birds looking or
yeah,
the birds look, yeah, I remember that one.
Are you my mother?
It's funny at the Trimmers panel when I caught Michael Gross from falling off the stage. I whispered into his ear and said, "Are you my father?"
and he went sha-na-na-na.
Gail Edwards. She if you ever watch Full House, she played Dot on this show, but on Full House she played Vicky Larson. Had a recurring role. She was on some episodes of Blossom, and she was on the first episode of Amazing Stories. And the
Very
episode
cool.
was Ghost Train.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And last but not least from our main cast is Crystal Bernard, who many people probably know from Wings. I never watched that, but I did this show.
Why? Because it's a white show?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was just confirming.
Everybody knows that.
Wings was pretty white.
as I'm
So
obsessing
white.
about It's a Living. She also played Casey Cunningham on Happy Days, which I completely forgot about that.
Last seasons of Happy Days.
Yeah,
right?
she was like one of the, a version of bringing, in a Cousin Oliver type deal.
Right.
But was Crystal Bernard, was she in the first 2 seasons or did she come during the syndication?
Yeah, so she came in syndication.
Okay.
So there were 2 actresses in the first 2 seasons. One was Susan Sullivan, who she had a big role on like Falcon Crest, and she was kind of like the lead waitress in the first season. Yeah. But then another actress, which I know Zach knows probably, is Wendy Shaw's her name?
Yes, indeed.
And she
played Mrs. Rumsfeld on The Burbs.
Yeah, she
Inner
was in
Space.
The Burbs,
Yep.
Inner Space,
Joe Dante,
Small Soldiers. She does the voice of Francine Smith on American Dad, which is I have no idea. She's on some, she's just a random episode. She was also on an episode of Amazing Stories called Boo. I need to go through some of these this cast stuff because there's some really notable ones that nerds will really, really appreciate.
Yeah, please.
And so there were like 3 different chefs over the course of the show. The first chef was Chef Mario, played by Burt Remsen.
Yep, who we know as the grandpa in Terror Vision.
Yes.
And that traumatized me as a kid because he dies in that, and the creature's head puts his head on his tongue and talks to him. And as a kid, I was kind of raised by my grandpa, and just that crushed me when I saw that movie, seeing the grandpa die.
Oh, man, yeah.
So anytime I see him, I'm like, oh, it's the grandpa from Terror Vision, and then I immediately, have the trauma comes back.
You roll into like a fetal
Yeah.
ball.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
You guys have seen it.
Then the second chef, who was only on for like a few, like not that many episodes, but it was Earl Bowen, I think his name is, and you all know him as Dr. Peter Silberman.
Yep. From Terminator 2 and Terminator 3. Yep.
Yeah, but again, he has a very prolific voice acting career, which I'm like discovering. So he did like a lot of Monkey Island games. He like Metal Gear Solid 2, Spider-Man, Justice League.
Cool.
Yeah, he was on this other black show called Static Shock. You might have heard of it. And then the last actor is Richard Stahl, who he was in American President, Ghosts of Mississippi, Private School. Zach, you've heard of that?
Oh, yeah, I have.
I think he was in the Blob remake in the late 80s. I believe he was in that too. So yeah, it was a great show. While I was watching it, I was really again, I always I find it funny how like I would gravitate towards these shows in the 80s and unironically watch them, like, and not even think about like sexes, not sex like Corey is thinking sex, but like
yes,
male,
always.
like yeah, but like male female sex. So I'm watching this show about like these women that are waitresses in a restaurant, and I'm just like I'm so in it. Just like, we talk about Kate and Allie, Jim and the Holograms. But this
Cagney
show,
and Lacey.
Yeah. I would just watch these shows, and I just watched them, and it was like whatever. I like this. So yeah, it was a great show. I think it ended in 80. I said it already. It ended in
89,
and right in time for another show that we may or may not be discussing a little bit later.
We will, but not much to talk about.
Yeah. So Corey, what did you think about It's a Living? This
so I
was
watched
your first go for it, right?
Yep. So I watched the pilot episode, and then you recommended to watch something in the third season just so I can have an idea of what the new sort of not format, but the change up would be. And I loved it. I thought the humor was sharp. I thought the setup was, it's cool. I'm fine with this. I like restaurant shows. I got no problem. I like the ensemble. It kind of the 2 episodes I saw all took place in the restaurant, so I don't know if they ever sort of branch out from there. I assume they do, but you already got me there. I love shows like Cheers where it always takes place in one location. I liked all the characters. I probably liked the ensemble from the pilot a little bit more than the third season where they kind of did the retooling and everything. I like that the one lady that they dropped, not Mrs. Rumsfeld, not Shaw, but the other lady. She seemed to be the one. It's weird because she's the most vanilla because she had a kid and had a husband, and there wasn't anything too exciting about her. But I thought that was kind of like a nice little grounding, because you have one character, Dot, who's trying to be an actress. Ann Jillian is the sassy one, and the one that quote unquote gets around, which just means she's a normal human being who's dating. You know what exists. I mean? Yeah. And then you got the redheaded who's kind of a little bit she's a little bit of the tough one, just a smidge tough. Yeah. And I liked that ensemble in the first in the pilot, and and it was weird because they had him in some sort of skimpy clothes, so it almost had this vibe of a high class Hooters, and then by the third season they seem to have toned that down.
Way down. I didn't even I only really know the season 3 on, so as far as I always knew, that's how the show started. So when I watched that pilot episode, and that was one of the first thing I noticed was those outfits, which I was a fan of. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Me too.
Not gonna lie.
No,
Susan Sullivan actually came. The one you're talking about, she actually didn't come back, I believe, because she got her role on Falcon Crest in the middle.
Okay.
Of that,
that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, but then the funny thing is, And the retooling in season 3, I felt like they gave the manager, or the maitre d', the older lady, I felt they gave her more to do because she kind of had this little flirtatious thing going on with the cook and whatnot. So, yeah, overall, what I saw, I really enjoyed. The funny thing is, Ann Jillian was good in it, but she kind of wasn't my favorite, like, character. Maybe it's just she didn't have as much to do, but as, like, a part of an ensemble, I very much enjoyed her in it. Like I felt like, you know, her character added value to the ensemble and added comedy to it and everything. It's just, I didn't see how she really stood out all that much, although she's kind of the only one with like really bleach blonde, you know, hair. The piano guy was great. I mean, he's sleazy. He seemed to be exactly the same from the pilot to season 3, and I can totally see him just constantly being the same. Although I can totally see them throwing in maybe an episode where they make him a little bit likable, and then it kind of like, you know, then they bring, but don't worry about it. You know what I mean? Like I can totally see that happening. But yeah, definitely getting Larry Dallas vibes from him. But yeah, I thought that was a banger. Like this could be. I can totally see myself popping this on like Amazon, if it's on Amazon Prime or something, and like watching it before going to bed. I might actually put this one in rotation because it was a lot of fun and really well written. And like I said, kept coming to mind. Like I felt like the dialogue was really sharp, and I liked that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. The writing was on point. If you guys have never seen this show, start with the first episode of season 1 because it's by today's standards, it actually deals with some pretty timely stuff, like the jerk patrons who were sexually assaulting one of the waitresses and like what comes out of that. It's got that same kind of Three's Company writing where, you know, they set up kind of a dramatic scene, but it's really funny at the end. You know, I think about like when Chrissy was being, you know, kind of assaulted by Jeffrey Tambor. I think he was one of the characters on Three's Company.
Oh my gosh.
And that, like, I think he actually tried to assault her and Jack steps in and kind of defends her. We'll have to find that episode. But man, like everybody's beautiful on this show.
Oh, stunning.
Like,
everyone is stunning.
First season, I developed some instant crushes.
First episode, me too.
Yes.
Diallo, 22 minutes, instant crush on every single one of them.
On everyone, yeah. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I
Those
mean,
outfits
look,
helped.
I get it. I get why they toned down the outfits, and obviously, and you know, that was whether they like to wear them or not. That the initial season was like va-va-voom, you know, and really sold this concept of like a high-end, classy, Hooters. You hit the nail on the head, Corey. Now living in Los Angeles and seeing this place and the one character who's like the struggling actor, I'm like, man, this is also very relatable because nothing has changed at all. Ann Jillian was giving me really strong Kim Cattrall Sex and the City vibes. Like, you know, she was Kim Cattrall before Kim Cattrall. You know, people go, whoa, that blonde bombshell, and she was so sexy. Yeah, but this is like a sitcom-y version of that before that, you know? So
that's when Kim Cattrall was being a mannequin.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And she was doing all sorts of other things stiff. So
Whoa.
So this show is great. It the font of the logo for the show is like, oh, that is Mr. Robot. That is everything 80s now. If you go to like in Da Font or whatever and like type in 80s, that's the first font that comes up. That high rise in downtown LA, not as nice as it was back in the 80s for sure. It's like homeless city now, down there. So that was kind of bitter, like kind of sad. But I felt like the cast felt like they were transported from New York out to LA. Like it had a very New York acting vibe. Everybody felt very theatrical, like they've been on stage. You know, that those New York actors that can act their asses off. That's the vibe I was getting for this. I, like you too, Diallo. I think I was introduced to this show when Crystal Bernard popped up. But I do remember watching the first season as well at some point, and I loved it. And I love it now as much as I loved it back then.
So when you say like first run syndication, I know what that means for when we talk about cartoons and stuff, and I know what that means when we talk about like Xena, the Warrior Princess and everything. But like for this show, when season 3 came out, so it wasn't on ABC. It was.
Right,
I remember
yeah.
watching it on WGN. WGN was like TBS,
Okay.
you know, where you could get that. That was the basic cable, right? And I probably was on WTBS, but it for sure was on WGN back in the day.
Okay, so every
Yeah.
territory had probably was on like channel 54 where I grew up or something like that. So
yeah.
okay, interesting.
It was on channel 44, cable 12 in San Francisco.
Right.
And like I remember, and it was funny too watching this because I totally forgot, but it's like a big part of, you know, some parts of my high school existence where they had like huge blocks of TV on Saturdays, which is actually kind of like, like I was like, you know, we had Saturday morning cartoons, which is like a staple, but like there was just like on like channel 2 and channel 44, they were just like all of these syndicated shows that they would show. And this was one of them. I remember we did Learning the Ropes. That was a show that was on at a certain point.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The New Gidget.
Oh my god. Oh my
yeah.
god. Oh my god. You just unlocked.
Yeah.
You just unlocked
Yeah,
a
yeah,
40-year-old memory. New Gidget.
Yeah, that's
Holy
one of my favorite
crap.
theme songs to sing.
Fun fact: the new Gidget is what Corey says.
When I
Out
see
of
Ann
this-
Jillian now.
Out of this world. The robot got Vicky, whatever that show was. Small Wonder.
Small
like
Wonder.
Small Wonder,
It was
yeah.
like the Saturday afternoons were just like this block of like syndicated shows, and this was one of the first ones that was like first run where it was made to be put on all of these channels across the country. And then, you know, a few years later, like it became this, it was, you know, all the way up until like maybe the late 90s, it was like really popular. Like Star Trek The Next Generation, that's how it first was on. Was that was a syndication.
First run syndicate. Interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did you say, Diallo? Did you say what the time frame in between seasons 2 and 3 were? Was it about a year and a half?
It was like 3 years.
Oh,
so
wow.
The first, it was a pretty big gap, but that's why it's like, it went off the air in 82 and it came back in 85. So
and so that's why it's funny because when we picked this, or when you guys were telling me we were going to do this, I look at him like it was on from 1980 to 1989. This isn't very obscure, but there was a giant 3-year gap in between there.
Yeah, when you put that it was on from 80 to 89, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, I thought you did a typo at first because I was like, this doesn't make. And I was reading it, and I was like, oh, I hadn't. Literally no idea this show came on in 1980. I just had no idea.
Well, I was thrown off when I was going through Ann Jillian's IMDb, and it was almost out of order, and I was like, "What is happening? Like, did I hit like the filter wrong on the phone?" But I think it's
like Wings Hauser.
Yeah, but it's like it doesn't know how to like insert, break up into two.
Yeah, that's one of my I hate that about IMDb. It's like a show, like an actor will be on a show, but they weren't on, like, on Law and Order, right?
Yeah.
So they were on Law and Order, but not like they were on like the 2012 version, but it's like listed as like 1990 or whatever.
Right, because it just all
Right.
falls under the Law and Order bracket.
Yeah.
No, but I found all of that interesting. Like I had Diallo, we were kind of texting back and forth, and like how my show that I'm going to cover next sort of fits into that and everything.
Yeah.
I'm glad we are covering Ann Jillian because I found all of this fascinating. I had no idea about any of this.
Zach, you mentioned Three's Company, and I failed to mention that Richard Klein, that played Larry, the car salesman. I think he was a car salesman. He played the eventual husband of Jan, Barry Youngfellow's character, in the last I think it was the last season. So he came on there too for a little bit.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so.
Yeah. He
Richard Klein.
Richard Klein. Yeah, you guys would know. Yeah, Larry Dallas. Yeah.
Larry Dallas. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that would have an interesting energy. Him and the pianist in the same same room. That's a lot of Larry Dallases.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
I am in that to win it. So I also too, like, I know that this show was around for a really long time, but I guarantee you, again, go out in the street, show a cast photo, and say, can you tell us what you think this is? And people are gonna go, I don't know. Though people will have no clue what It's a Living is, and it's a damn shame because this show is a treasure.
Well, that's what I think a lot of these first run sitcom shows, to me, maybe it's just because I watched them all that I remember them distinctly. But I can see how they didn't really hit the popular consciousness, even though they existed on a certain level. But you think about it, they were on Saturday afternoons usually, and that was a time when a lot of people weren't home. That just tells you what I was doing when I was a kid. So I was My Secret Identity was another one that, at least where I lived, it came on Saturday afternoons. So I can see why it's it still would be obscure,
Yeah.
Just like I said, I just unlocked your memory about the new Gidget. Right.
But that it was huge at the time, right? But now we've all forgotten about it.
Yeah. For me, I seen the theme song all the time. I was like, oh yeah, that's where I fell in love with Sydney Penny. Yeah. So anyway.
Well, we'll transition into mine because I think it's just as obscure. This show is going to take place in between that gap. So I am covering Jennifer Slept Here. Jennifer Slept Here was a fantasy sitcom series that ran for 13 episodes on NBC from October 1983 to May of 1984. It starred Ann Jillian as the ghost of a famous movie actress that haunts her Los Angeles home. The new family's son, Joey, played by John P. Navin Jr., who everyone knows as Cousin Dale in National Lampoon's Vacation, is the only one that can see Jennifer, and she kind of becomes a mentor to him. The show, and here's where we kind of figured some pieces out. The show was originally placed in a low-rated Friday night time slot and eventually canceled. NBC later aired reruns on Wednesday nights, and it became a surprise hit. There were plans to revive Jennifer Slept Here for a second season, but Ann Jillian chose to star in the syndicated revival of the previous series, It's a Living. So there you go. So they were actually going to bring this show back because it found new life in syndication, but she obviously went with It's a Living. And I don't know if that's the better choice or not, because I kind of actually really enjoyed this show. The premise is kind of, it's out there. It's one of those high concept premises that you're like, okay, where's this going to go? And I think from what I saw, I actually watched the first 2 episodes. I think they handled some stuff pretty well. Real quick, obviously I talked about John P. Navin Jr., and I think, like we said, we all know him from National Lampoon's Vacation, but he was also in Explorers, and he was also on an episode of The Facts of Life. The mom is played by Georgia Engel, and Diallo, we know her from Mary Tyler Moore Show, right?
Yes. That's where I knew her from. I forgot to look up. She was I was like, I know her from something. What do I know her from?
Yep. Yep. She was also Everybody Loves Raymond. But here's an interesting one. The dad is played by Brandon Maggart. Maggart. He
young guy
Christian. Pad listeners, this movie was recommended to me by a lot of people, and I watched it last Christmas, but he was the head, I don't know what you'd want to call him, because he wasn't really that bad of a guy, but he was the bad guy in Christmas Evil. He was the Santa Claus in Christmas Evil, and not gonna lie, I did not love that movie in the way everyone kind of oh, it's great, you're gonna love it. Sorry, Lee, I know you love that one. I'm not a big fan. But Zach, he's also Fiona Apple's father.
Yes, and I knew that because of Christmas Evil. And they're like, the guy from Christmas Evil is Fiona Apple's father.
Yep.
I've been a bad boy. Girl.
I've been in love with
So watching the pilot, it pretty much sets up everything you need to know right away. And I think they kind of keep everything, sort of all the dynamics going. The dad's like a lawyer. They move from New York. I think all of these shows feature somebody that moves from New York,
Because that's where it gets made, son.
Exactly. And so the kid, who's 14 years old, can only see Ann Jillian, and she kind of is like, I don't know why she's always in his room, but she is.
Well, we know why.
And she's wearing sometimes some pretty skimpy stuff. And I'm like, wow, this show's kind of horny. And it's like a low-key horny. And then watching the second episode totally solidified the horniness of the show. And I'm like, okay. Diallo, when you watched the second episode, did you notice that they added the addition to like the boy's bedroom? When you see it through his or her eyes, it looks like her bedroom. But then when the younger sister comes in, it's like it turns into the boy's bedroom. So that means they had to construct two separate sets. And I was like, you didn't need to do that. Like, you didn't need to do the whole, like, it looks like how her bedroom used to look. We got it. You didn't. I actually thought it kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah, I didn't really notice that. But, like, the second episode we watched made things a little confusing for me.
Because everyone could see her type of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because it was like, that's against the whole premise of everything.
Yeah, but but I felt like at the end, the payoff was kind of funny with the invisible head and everything.
No big complaints. No.
Diallo, what did you think of Jennifer Lives Here? Jennifer Slept Here.
One thing I thought about it was the theme song was sung by Joey Scarberry, who is
Believe it or
the
not,
Greatest American Hero fame. So that's what I thought about it. No,
that's cool.
It's actually funny because when this was first brought up, I didn't recall it. I didn't recall the other two shows at all. But then as I was watching it, I was like, wait a minute. I actually remember this show. I remember watching it. I remember it being on. I probably didn't watch too many episodes of it, but I do remember the show.
Well, there was only 13 episodes. So.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's not a terribly original premise because there's other shows.
Well, it's based on the Ghost of Mrs. Muir.
Right, yeah. And there was another show.
Sorry, is that a movie? What is that, Zach?
It's both. It's a movie and a sitcom.
A sitcom.
From the 60s.
Yeah, and then there was another one. I can't remember. It might have been the 50s. But yeah, so but I still liked the premise of it, you know. Yeah, it just kind of again, it's one of those ones where like we, you know, say it over and over again. There's something about it that just didn't pop for it, and it needed a little bit more something. I don't know if it was like the cast or what, but maybe it was like the situation was a little too limited, or you know, I don't know, but I still was like fun, you know, especially that second episode that she had us watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good, and then you know that second episode, I was telling you guys the director in it was one of the characters from I think his name was Lewis from Electric Company.
Okay.
Like bald-headed dude with the mustache. I was like, oh, another guy. So I love that show. So yeah, great show, good times. Joey Scarberry.
Yeah, the theme song is gold. It actually reminded me, there's a band called Wolves of Glendale now. They're a comedy band like Tenacious D or Flight of the Conchords, and they have a song called Olivia. And the line is, you know, my girlfriend's a ghost, she haunts my kitchen, like stuff like that. It's really funny. And the song just continues to get more and more wild as it goes on. But this theme song reminded me of that, like living with a ghost and she's in your house or whatever whatever the lyrics are. But it's so funny because you're like, it's so cheesy. They're fitting the whole plot of this show into the theme song, and it's ridiculous. The kid who plays, you know, the main boy on the show, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he's also from National Lampoon's Vacation.
Yeah,
he's like he's the cousin of the kids in that who wants to get with his sister. So all I could think of is like, this kid's a pervert. You know, he kind of looks like a pervert. Like that's the vibe he gives off.
He's got those droopy eyes.
Yeah, he's got that pervy eye. He's got those pervy eyes. He'll seduce you. No, and it's funny because there's a running gag, at least in the first episode, with the dad. You know, every time he says something disparaging about Ann Jillian's character, like she gets pissed and causes a picture to fall or something, a loud crash, which is hilarious. It's it's cliche sitcom, but I think it's really funny. And the fact that it only lasted 13 episodes definitely makes it a TV obscure show. It is interesting how Ann Jillian, she kept getting work. Like she kept doing things that maybe didn't do well because the show we're going to talk about after this didn't do well, but she's getting it done. She's still getting, like, she might not have been the lead on It's a Living, but she had a prominent role, like a strong role. And this, she's a lead in this, and she gets another lead for a sitcom. It reminds me a little bit of Matthew Perry, when, Matthew Perry was the ensemble, a part of that ensemble, and everyone loved him. And then he gets his own sitcom, doesn't do well.
Doesn't last.
Joey doesn't do well.
Yep.
Like, these guys, when they leave that ensemble, there's a reason why ensembles work and solo shows don't. And, it's not a knock on the actor. It's the writing, it's all the pieces, right? But, this show's fun. And the fact that, it's based on an old concept, but they zhuzhed it up, if you will, with adding Ann Jillian to it. Low rent Kim Cattrall.
Yeah. I was kind of expecting it to be honestly a little bit cheesier than it turned out to be. I was not expecting it to have the level of sex appeal that it had. But in the first episode, she's wearing something with very cleavagey, and I'm like, she's talking to a 14-year-old boy. Did no one did anyone be like, maybe this is not? But me, I was like, I would have loved it at that age. I would have absolutely loved it. But at the same time, I also didn't expect it to be as funny as it was, and kind of how quick-witted and and Zach, you said it fun. It's kind of a fun premise and everything. So yeah, it actually had a lot going for it. I think maybe in this case it was just the time slot, because again, when it was on reruns on Wednesday, people loved it so much so that they were actually going to revive it. So maybe in this case, it was all about that dreadful Friday night time slot. Well,
again, just like we're saying for It's a Living, it got canceled, comes on a syndication, and it's a hit, a relative hit for its time. So there's lots of instances of, even popular shows where it took time for it to catch on. Obviously, you were doing a podcast for Seinfeld forever,
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek was another one. I just saw someone show a clip of a show in the 70s called Family. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but there was a whole riff about Comic-Con conventions where people would go to see the cast of Star Trek. And I was funny watching it because at the time that was in between when Star Trek had gotten canceled and they hadn't made movies yet. So we know it as this behemoth now, but it was just this show that gained popularity after it was off. So
yeah,
and with and with Friday nights too, even kind of growing up, Seinfeld I think was on Thursdays. Thursday was always the big comedy night, but then TGIF, Urkel or Family Matters and stuff like that hit. Mm-hmm. Was that the first? I'm sure it's not the first time, but was that when Friday nights actually made a push to make Friday nights an actual must-watch, sitcom type of thing?
I think that, TGI Friday was, I think that was the first time it was marketed that way. But my memory, and maybe it's because I didn't go out a lot, but my memory was that there were always really good shows worth watching on Friday nights. I remember, and maybe some of them canceled because I remember we covered a couple on TV Obscura, the Highwaymen.
Yeah.
I remember that was on Friday night. I feel like Knight Rider was on Friday nights.
Yeah, I feel like it was too.
Started. So that was one of the biggest shows there was. So
Miami Vice was on Friday nights.
Yeah, yeah. So there were really big shows on Friday nights and late on Friday nights. And I don't think it was until, for me, it wasn't until the late 90s and then 2000s when all of a sudden it just Friday nights was not you would dump stuff there, and it's the graveyard now. But back then it wasn't that so much.
Yeah.
One little quick note: this was bugging me. The best friend of the main character, his name is Glenn Scarpelli, and he was on One Day at a Time in the last few seasons.
He would show up on a lot of those reality shows in the in the 90s.
In the
90s?
Just okay.
Not like exploiting, but just would always pop up trying to get his face out there, I think.
And it says on this list here, it says he was on 3-2-1 Contact too. I don't remember.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
another New York actor.
If he was on like as one of the kids in the little lab, or if he was on what do you call it? Bloodhound Gang. Yeah.
I love that. And I also want to point out that the kid's name is John Navin. He's the boy on the show, and he played Cousin Dale in National Lampoon's Vacation. But he was also apparently the first he was on the first episode of Cheers, and tried to use a fake ID in the pilot episode of Cheers.
Wow. He was in Taps.
Yeah.
Wow.
Remember that movie?
Yeah, actually I do. I do.
Yeah,
me too.
I just saw Tom Cruise's last movie, and he's come a long way.
I've heard he's pretty good at that acting
Impossible.
thing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, keeping with the theme of tonight about a show about people moving from New York to California.
Oh God,
Zach, you want to take us home with maybe the least exciting of all three of these?
Do I have to?
I mean, guys and gals, this will be a 5-minute discussion.
so here's the thing. The little behind the green door, so to speak.
Wow.
On this show, we always pick a different show, right? And Diallo's like, I'm doing It's a Living. I'm like, you got it, man. That's your jam. That's also my favorite show. And then Corey's like, I'll do this one, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take this show. I've never seen the Ann Jillian show. Now I know why. If y'all remember the Lifetime network in the late 80s, and all they would show is women giving birth videos and like a daytime talk show that was just these two like soccer mom looking women on the show and just talking about, like, it was like an all women's network. This show would have fit really well on an all women's network.
Yeah.
Ann Jillian is about I don't want to call her washed up, but a performer from New York whose husband dies. He's a firefighter, dies in the line of duty, and she and her daughter move out to California. Pilot episode's called California Dreamin'. And there's a bicycle montage where they're riding around on bikes because the daughter's never rode one before, and it is the most cliche milquetoast white bread show I've ever seen in my entire life. The opening, I think everyone should go watch it just for the comedy, because the opening sequence of showing the cast members looks like stock photos that you go online to find, like generic pictures of white people. I need a white blonde woman, Ann Jillian. I need a white blonde daughter. You get this, or not, I need a white daughter with dark hair. You get her daughter, I think Lisa Rifle, and it's like everybody on the show. I need a cliche white boy that lives next door, Zachary Rosencrantz, like, who has the funniest moment in the pilot episode, mind you. And they deal with cliches. They have because it's in California, they got the surfer dudes who work at the bike shop.
Yeah,
it's actually the best scene in the pilot.
Yeah.
But you got a scene where, like, Ann Jillian's going from one bank to another trying to get a loan or whatever, and it's just her face on camera. It's very like Ann Jillian heavy. They're really like shoving her down our throats. And it's fine. It's just the most cliche sitcom by the numbers that you can think of. And, it can remain obscure. I think there's nothing wrong with that. These things all have a place. There is a weird moment, and I don't know if it was the audio that on my phone that I was listening to, because I watched it on YouTube. But at the end of the episode, there's a heartfelt scene where the daughter and her like have it out, which causes tension, and then they make up at the end, and they're sitting on a porch looking at the stars. But like they're outside, and the audio is like they're on like on a stage or something.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh, that's weird. I just assumed it was bad quality, but it did throw me off because I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, because I'm like, are they going to bust out into song all of a sudden?
There was a note on I think we all watched the same video where the person actually in the description apologized for the audio because it was a little out of sync, and I think that they did say they tried to clean it up, and it was terrible, but they couldn't find it anywhere else, so just decided to upload it anyway. So I think
we're lucky we even have that, basically.
Yeah. I think
are we though?
Are we lucky? Not at all. I want my 22 minutes back.
It aired for 13 episodes. It aired for 10 episodes because 3 of those were unaired in November of '89. It was like a replacement for a show that probably got dumped at the exact same time. And it's okay. It's kind of the swan song on Ann Jillian's 80s career where you're like, okay, it's time to pass the torch. Go back to being a supporting actor on a show. There's nothing wrong with that.
Man, what a way to go out with like a whimper. I mean, Zach, I'm with you, man. The bicycle scene was the best part of the episode, and it wasn't even the main characters. Like, it was these side characters were the best part of it. There was this one gag where the next door neighbor sat on this like kind of tall bike and then dropped down, and it was, it's a ball busting gag, but it had like, it was in everyone's reaction that you knew his balls got busted, and I thought that was actually kind of clever and very funny. But everything else in it, Zach, I texted you. I was like, me sitting here waiting for something remotely entertaining to happen. It's like, it just like was so, yeah, dude, you nailed it. Like milk toast. No chances taken, like, whatsoever. And even, like, this idea that, she's from New York, her husband passed away, they bought this house, and it's weird because they, like, owned it for, like, 3 years but didn't move to it or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's like, what? Like, what the hell is that? And it's, like, it's funny because on paper, like, these are kind of, like, these are kind of big things and big events, and they even try to eke something out of it with like some emotion out of it with the daughter. But at the same time, you're like, I know that like nothing is going to sort of come from this. It's all just going to be so easily resolved, and she's going to get her job, and everything. And then that montage where they, like you said, where it's like she goes to all these different banks, but the only reason the camera stays on her face, so it's really weird editing that she's at a different bank, and the only reason that is because like the other person's voice is different. And I was like, this is terrible. Like, this is legit bad television,
Yeah.
And she kind of even lacked some kind of appeal. Like, I don't know, maybe it was the fucking oversized sweater that they put her in.
Yeah.
I get it. This is the breast cancer and whatever, but like that doesn't mean you have to like lose your sex appeal like 100%, I don't know. I feel like I'm speaking out of turn there. I've never had to experience that, but at the same time, it's just not the Ann Jillian that I had just seen 2 other shows about, you know what I mean? So I was just like, whoa, it's, what? It just was like it was a wet blanket is what it was.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that. The theme song is super milquetoast as well. It's very drab, and it's Ann Jillian. It's Ann Jillian singing the theme song, by the way.
Yeah,
and just
I could tell.
Just all these runs, and like she's feeling good about herself.
The last thing I'll say is, what doesn't help it? It's not called the Ann Jillian Show. It's just called Ann Jillian. So I really fucking think that kind of like throws you off,
Oh, totally. And on top of that, they moved to the town of Marvel, and it's like that's not even first of all, it's not a place, but you think they would make a bigger deal out of that. I don't know why they would call it that. Marvel. It's not Marvel at all. It's not marvelous. It's nothing.
Yeah.
And I will say, and Diallo will know exactly what this is. They're listening to the radio, and they say, coming up next, it's like AM News, Paul Harvey. And I'm like, oh shit. If y'all don't know who Paul Harvey is, he was like a staple on AM News. He always had like the last word kind of thing on AM News programs. But again, a super random reference. Like, why are they referencing Paul Harvey? Who's the audience for this? Because at one moment they're like, is this a kid's show? Is this appealing to teenagers?
Is it supposed to be because the daughter, or is it, is it single moms? Like, yeah, dude, no, that's a great point. Like, literally, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm looking back on it. Who's the target audience for this thing?
Right.
It's
just,
Lifetime. It's a Lifetime show, but it's on network television.
right.
You know what it felt like to me? It felt more to me like a Saved by the Bell style writing, at least when it came to that like bike shop scene. I actually didn't think that bike thing was clever. I was just like, this is sort of like the lowest form of humor, which I love. I love low forms of humor. I'm not like crapping on it at all. They still thought it was funny, but it seemed kind of obvious to me also.
Oh, it's so super cliche.
Yeah, but it felt like it was a show that could have been on when we did California Dreams and like Saved by the Bell, whatever, when it was on that Saturday afternoon block, whatever they called it.
Totally.
It felt like it could have been more on that, just like the level of writing. And then conversely, it felt like it was the premise to and like 80s or 90s dramedy. So it's like just the premise, because from once they get there, some crazy drama needs to happen. And if it was played a little bit more serious, but still had comedic beats, it felt like that also. So there was like a lot of stuff going on in that episode. And I think that at least the pilot, I didn't watch any other episodes, but maybe that's but I think like maybe that's why like it felt like there was like so much going on. There was like a scene when she was at the diner or like the restaurant, whatever, and the old man was like asking her questions.
Yeah,
and he was just so like, hey, how you doing? He seemed like a guy that they just pulled off the street but it was a way for her to give what the premise and like the reason that they were going there. And it's actually kind of funny because like in other the other shows, they'll just sing like what happened and why we're here, right? So yeah, and then they get there, and then it's like the house, and then she doesn't want to go to take her to school or wherever she needs to go, so she's gonna go get a bike, and then they meet the people, and then she gets mad at there's just like there was a lot going on there, and I didn't necessarily have a problem with it, but it just didn't flow as an episode, you know, and I imagine the rest of the show was probably like that. So it was like overly saccharine in some ways, but then it was like super, like the level of jokes wasn't like high enough to be.
No, like it doesn't quite work as like a sitcom. And I actually think it might have, maybe it was before its time, but it might have been better as an hour-long dramedy, like a Dawson's Creek type of thing, and like not like, you know, a sitcom where like we're in these like limited locations, but actually take us out into the town, you know, give us a little bit more time to breathe, and maybe it would have worked a little bit better. But like as a quote-unquote sitcom, it was too saccharine, Diallo, like you said. It was too just milquetoast, and just I didn't feel like there were any stakes, and then at the same time, it's like you also couldn't tell like who it was for. So I'm just retreading my same thoughts, but I do think it might have been better just opening it up into an hour-long format. You know,
there's sort of like a, you know, like a thematic shorthand that you do often in lots of TV and movies in the United States. So it's like you want to affect a certain vibe, so you like place it in, like Superman's from Kansas because that represents. Clark Kent is from Kansas, so that represents like Americana, like shorthand, right? So you wouldn't retell a story about Superman where he crashes in Los Angeles or even in the Central Valley in California, even if it's a farm there, because it doesn't have that same like reference to people, right? A lot of the success, I think, of like Stephen King stories, like setting them all in Maine, because there's always this feeling of remoteness, and you know, and there's always this feeling of like being still on this level, like the 60s or 50s out there, so it still feels kind of creepy, right? This story, they go to this town Marvel, and it's in California, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like it wasn't reading to me. Like on a quick, I didn't get it, right? So I'm like, the whole idea was like they were going to this small town, and then they get there, but then all the people were very like surfer California, like the kids in the shop were like and it I couldn't figure it out. Like what are you trying to tell me? And
yeah.
I think in a movie that could have worked because you'd have more time, more locations, that kind of stuff. But even just setting it in, like, no offense, Corey, but like Oregon, or setting it like, it's like so like in the wild somewhere, but not like it just in California. Although there are places on the coast that can be like that,
and I think this is supposed to be on the coast like
Pismo
that.
Beach, or
but
something.
But it didn't track that it's on the coast. It doesn't still look like that,
Yeah, because like she's like, we're gonna go get bikes and we're gonna do, and it's all like California surfer stuff, not like
Huntington Beach or something.
Yeah, not like I'm living in a small town in the middle of nowhere. And
I don't know why they didn't just call it Pismo Beach. Like, why don't you just call it San Luis Obispo? Like, why do you got to call it Marvel, whatever the hell that is? And you guys know, like, if they made this today, they would be more truthful with it, with the subject. They would have her be dumped by her boyfriend, or dumped by the husband who cheated on her with another chick, and she got cancer and then he left her, right? So she's stuck with the kid, and it's just her, and they go out to California, and that's where the drama is. But then the comedy is the quirky characters, a la Northern Exposure, or a la Picket Fences. Like the straight character, the sad, dramatic character. Oh my gosh, my husband's an asshole. And I'm trying to raise my daughter who's bitter at me because I took her away from her friends, and now all these quirky characters in the town. Like, I agree, it would make a much better hour-long drama now. But we're like armchair quarterback.
Yeah.
This show is no wonder this 30 minutes. And I totally agree with you, Diallo. It feels like, Saved by the Bell with crappy writing.
Yeah.
Crappy sets.
I mean, Saved by the Bell was crappy, right?
It was crappy, but there's four acts.
Yeah, it was on Saturday mornings for teens.
For a reason. This is like an NBC sitcom at night for who, like you said, Corey, who's this for? And 4 actors, 4 white actors who all look related from, stock photos.
Yeah.
I just as you're kind of talking, I realized that this show basically has almost the same exact premise, even to some. Yeah, it has a lot. It's like Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, the movie version of Alice, and that's it's set. And again, like that movie sets it in like a desert in the middle of nowhere, right?
Right.
And this is like there's even the whole bit about getting on bicycles. I think in that movie, I think. I might be making that up.
Baghdad Cafe too. Baghdad Cafe.
Yeah. She's
kind of
like,
vibe.
I was a waitress and I did this, and it's like I'm gonna go. Yeah. So I just thought of that. It's just almost the same exact premise. Like
it is.
Yeah.
But way better.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna bill this on the the front cover and everything as the Ann Jillian show, because it'll be confusing otherwise. But I think we can all agree this was our least favorite, and I think we can all agree It's a Living was our favorite. And I'll say that I was actually surprised by Jennifer Slept Here. I was surprised at how much I actually enjoyed that one.
Yeah, me too. Ghost and Mrs. Muir, I believe, which was a comedy too. It's like a fun screwball comedy to check out.
Okay.
But you won't ever watch it, so it's okay.
Well, this was interesting too, because Zach, I think this is the first time on TV Obscura, like we've done like episodes where it's just about one show, like Macross or like Robotech or something. But this is the first time we've actually just taken an actor and covered a few of their shows. So it actually, what I loved about this is it felt like we were doing an auteur de force, type of thing. And it was, but instead of a director, an auteur, we were looking at, this microcosm of an actor and sort of in order during this one particular decade. That's what I found most interesting about this, and the funny thing is she still had other things she was actually doing in this decade, but I did like this. I did like tracking one actor over the course of 3, separate shows.
Yeah, me too. I know originally, like now realizing looking back, we had probably intended to do It's a Living with other female-centric shows, like you said, like both of you said, Kate and Allie, Cagney and Lacey or whatever. But we will do that. We will definitely cover Kate and Allie
absolutely
soon. But I'm glad we did this, because it was, again, like we said in the onset, it's to shine a spotlight on someone people probably have forgotten about.
We need to do a Jan Michael Vincent episode.
I mean, we could. There's so much to do.
I mean, I am on board for doing another one of these like actor specific TV obscuras. Totally.
I believe we are due for the second season of our theme songs, though. Cartoon and regular.
Yes, I think you're right about that. I'll go and double check, but yeah, I think you're right. It feels like we should be doing that. Maybe next chunk of TV Obscura. Diallo's getting excited.
I was just singing one of the songs today, and I was like, "Oh man, we didn't do that one." Oh,
yep.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna make
on Facebook.
I'm gonna add like an amendment to it, and basically just say three theme songs we love. It doesn't have to be like our favorite. Just three theme songs we love, because we'll get so much blowback from that voice. You love it. You've heard it before. You didn't pick blah, blah.
I can't wait to meet that person that you talk to.
It sounds like like one of those cartoon characters from the 80s.
Yeah.
Some kid. This was bothering me, and I looked it up. The other ghost show, they used to watch this on like TV 20. It was called Topper. I don't know if you ever heard of that.
Which is
it's from like the 50s. Yeah, and it was another show where like it was like it was a ghost couple, I think, on that show. That was haunting the guy. So yeah, it's
based on a movie too, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
it's based on a movie. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know. It's a concept that's been done, but I still think it worked. By the time that had come on, it had been like 30 years. So
the Topper movie's 1937 and the TV show's 1953.
Yeah.
And then there's Beetlejuice. But that's totally original. No, it's not.
I don't like that movie.
No.
Me
Am
too.
I canceled? Okay.
No, I didn't watch Beetlejuice a lot as a kid. Actually, you know what? I like the cartoon more than I like the movie.
Same. Well, you know why? Because Beetlejuice is in the entire cartoon.
Yeah.
Do you know in the movie? He's only in it the last 20 minutes of a 90-minute movie.
He's barely in it.
Don't slap Michael Keaton on the cover and say it's showtime when he's only in it for 20 minutes.
It's kind of like with Arachnophobia, Zach, with John Goodwin, how like he's all over it. He was all over the promo stuff, and he's only in it for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yep. Look at us.
But this was fun. I did very much enjoy this.
Me too. Me also.
Yeah, not knowing anything about Ann Jillian going in. This was really cool. Zach, I thank you for sort of putting this one together. I think you're right. We were going to do It's a Living with some other things, but I think this was cool, and it was fun to sort of do something different, So
God bless Ann Jillian. Like, I'm in all sincerity, what a great career she had.
Yeah, she's still around, guys. So
but she's retired, I think. Yeah. So
maybe we can interview her. Who knows?
Like, you didn't like my Ann Jillian show? Oh, and that show on Lifetime was called New Attitudes. It was called Attitudes. It was a talk show. They made fun of it on SNL. Jen Hooks. They had these butch kind of short haircuts.
Oh,
I was gonna ask
you.
You
gotta look up Attitudes. It is so look up the theme song or the promo for the opening. It is so bad. It's so cheese. It's like, hey, we're gonna talk about lady stuff, and
I was literally gonna ask you if it was what they make fun of on SNL, like that one skit. Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Linda Dano, Nancy Glass.
You're looking it up. Yep, that's it. Yeah. Attitudes. Oh my God. Lifetime used to suck. Well, maybe it still does, but they have some.
Still does.
Except for a Paul London movie that Babysitter Murders, whatever it's on there.
Yeah. We gotta support our boy Paul London.
Always, brother.
Oh man.
I feel like that show you debuted on Lifetime. I feel like.
Did.
Diallo, you got anything you want to plug, buddy?
Ann Jillian?
Yeah, buddy. Woo!
Wow.
In ghost form, baby.
Well, that might happen.
Shut up.
Oh, man.
Now you're canceled, Zach.
My roommate's a ghost.
But seriously, he was 14. And,
that show was
and
so
she was
horny.
just she was cleavage all hanging out. There was there was one scene where she's crying and on his. I was just thinking on set he must have been like like, this is like amazing. Like, if I
This is
was a
the best
14-year-old
gig
boy,
ever.
and like this beautiful like woman just draped all over me, like, oh my god.
These are the guys at cons you see 30 years later who are all tatted up, piercings all over their face. They're like, yeah, I was in a sitcom in the 80s. You're like, yeah, man, it really messed you up, didn't it?
That sounds very specific, Zach. It sounds like you're talking about somebody very specifically.
Look it up. Google it.
Google it. You go do that.
Anyway,
I'll tray you.
Yeah.
Oh man. Anyways, yeah, I don't have anything specific to plug. I did just finish my children's book. That I'm really excited about that. So I'm gonna start looking for agents and publishers to see if I can get that out there. And
Nice.
Cool.
that's about it right now. Just in the trenches working on First Noel still, and 80s Kids Unite. Weird Galactic Activity is still on hiatus. Like season 4 was on hiatus for a little bit during the writer's strike, but we're angling to get back in and finishing up our journey to Earth.
So you're on brand basically.
Yeah. It's like, like life started happening and both of us were having things going on. So we had to like take a step back, but we intend to finish it. And I was just like, oh, it's kind of apropos because, right, we're right at the
Yeah.
part when they had the strike and then the show left and it was like, are you going to finish the show or not? And then the strike was over and the show came back. So we're on brand. But still TBD for when we return. But other than that, just kind of, trying to live life and doing the best I can.
Well, we recorded just this morning. We recorded an 80s Kids Unite, so you'll hear Diallo on that as well.
Doing it the best I can.
Zach, this is going to drop in June. What you got going on $2 late fee in June, baby?
Well, I will promote something a friend of ours, Bob Lindemeyer's documentary Making Megaforce that Dustin and I are both in. It's making its world premiere at the Film Invasion Los Angeles Festival on June 22nd at the Look Dine-In Cinemas in Glendale. It's a Sunday night, 5:30. Bob will be there. I'll be there. Dustin will be there. Hopefully Diallo will be there. There might be a special appearance by a particular actor from the movie Megaforce there. A particular motorcycle will be there for photo ops. It's June 22nd at the Look Dine-In Cinemas in Glendale, California, Los Angeles. So I hope everyone can join us for that. Fly out if you can. It's going to be the world premiere of Making Megaforce, the documentary about the guy who wants to relive his childhood and be BFFs with Barry Bostwick. I actually just had him on the show for Tales from the Video Store. That's out now as of this taping. Did a very special episode of $2 Late Fee with special co-host Andre Gower, Sean from the Monster Squad, and we talk about the 1985 film Silverado, and that will carry into our interview with Todd Allen from Witchboard, but he's also in Silverado too. Great interview.
Nice.
Anyways, that's all going on $2 Late Fee.
Cool. And I'll just plug on our Patreon, on Podcast After Dark's Patreon. Zach and I are starting our newest auteur in June. We are going to be tackling Bill Lustig's filmography, starting with Maniac. So if you all sign up to our $5 tier, the Auteur de Force tier, you will immediately unlock all of our John Carpenter, the Carpenter Factor, which is about 26 or 27 episodes. So it took us about 2 years and a handful of months to get through all of his movies and TV show episodes and stuff. And then we went into the Coscarelli Factor. We covered everything Don Coscarelli did. So if you join now and right in time for Bill Lustig, you will unlock both of those, and you will unlock every single episode that we covered. So it's been a wild journey. We don't break down the movies, but what we do is we look at them, how they fit into the auteur's overall filmography, and we will, revisit movies we've already covered. So Zach and I reviewed, did a proper review of Vigilante by Bill Lustig. So we will revisit it, but instead of breaking it down, we'd look at how it fits into his filmography, and it feels, at the end of it, we see how they do, like basically how they feel, if they maintained their auteurness, full all the way through. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm very, very excited to start diving into Bill Lustig's filmography.
Yeah. Same.
Who was at the Comic-Con? Was it Eric Roberts? I think you mentioned doing the Coscarelli Factor, and he had opinions about it.
Oh, Mark Ralston, because he was in Survival Quest.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep,
yeah.
That's right.
He was like, "Oh, you're doing him?" What?
Yeah.
You know who you needed to have on there is that doorman from the Troubadour. He's really knowledgeable.
He actually reached out and wants to be on the show.
Oh, did yeah. He was like, he knows his stuff.
Yeah, Corey, we at the Troubadour, when Diallo and I saw the artist Ollie Ride, who will actually be on $2 late fee in July.
Oh, sweet.
Talking sweet. About, I'm doing a LA centric episode about favorite LA movies in the 80s, coming soon on $2 late fee. He
was super knowledgeable too.
He was, but I'm making him watch a particular movie that I won't talk about until we talk about it on the interview. But the doorman at the Troubadour was way into Podcasting After Dark's filmography of movies that we've covered, including My Tutor. And he reached out to me on Instagram. Found me on Instagram because I told him about Podcasting After Dark, and reached out to me privately. And he's like, "Hey, you guys ever want to, another person on the show or whatever?" Very, very cool guy. Very cool.
You want to jam? You want to jam? I'm your guy.
You want to jam? You want to jam, man?
That's awesome. And I mean, Zach, your landlord has some interesting stories as well. So I would love to actually interview him. He worked as a Foley artist for 4 years in Hollywood back in the day, and he has some very interesting stories. I was talking to him for like 30 minutes while you were out doing something, and they were installing the door and everything. So
I don't even know what I was doing, picking up Bodie.
I think you were going to go get Bodie. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like in LA, so many people just talk to people. Like seriously, like. It's just freaking talk to people. Everyone's got interesting stories. It's really cool. I do love that about LA.
As Mikey says in Swingers, we all have stories.
We all have stories. And on that note, and as always,
catch you on the obscure side.
Ooh, it's the ghost of Ann Jillian going to haunt Corey.
Going to haunt my penis.
Wow.
Oh, whoa.
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark and give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. Support Podcasting After Dark on Patreon. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Podcasting After Dark. And visit us next time for another installment of Podcasting After Dark with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.
Have you been wondering where's the beef? Well, on our podcast, Throwback Trivia Takedown, you might just find that out, as well as some other things about the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
We're a nostalgic-based trivia show that pits two challengers head-to-head in a duel of the decades, with categories ranging from movies, TV and music, to slang, food, and fashion. You're sure to get the best in retro-themed trivia.
So strap on your jelly shoes, grab a Surge, and walk like an Egyptian to your favorite podcast app and check out Throwback Trivia Takedown.
I heard even Mikey likes it.